Welcome to the Let's Talk Kids Health Live Show, episode 53. I'm Dr. Nerissa Bauer, your host. I'm a behavioral pediatrician and CEO of Let's Talk Kids Health. As you know, the concept of the show is to share information about behavioral health, parenting, and family wellness. Each week, I plan to bring you topics and guests to help me advance this mission so that we can all talk together. Now, let us know that you're here by commenting, asking questions, and liking at any time. And in a little bit, your questions will be asked to my guest. Now, the replay will be immediately available after the broadcast. And so if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I wish so and so were watching this right now, well, they can, because if you share it, they can watch it. And if you don't want to miss future episodes or maybe check out some of my past ones, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, NerissaBauerMD, follow my blog Facebook page, Let's Talk Kids Health, and join my free parenting discussion group. All right, so now that the housekeeping's out of the way, I am so excited to introduce you to this week's guest, Lafaya Mitchell. Lafaya is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She has worked successfully with families of children, teens, and adults with moderate to severe social, emotional, and or behavioral issues for over 20 years. Her experience and success led her to create the Lafaya Way, an advanced relational philosophy lighting the pathway to peaceful relationships with hypersensitive people. We're going to talk about all of this and more. I am just so thrilled to have you. Happy New Year and welcome to the show.
Happy New Year. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad too. And I just remember the first time we chatted on your show, just the energy and the connection. I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's my people."
Yeah. I was like, I love her. Oh my goodness. Okay, anytime.
So I'm just so excited to welcome you as one of my first guests for the new year. And this is
Yes.
such a great topic. I mean, I think especially with the pandemic and so many, it's been just dragging on for a long time. So many kids and families with mental health issues, new or ongoing. And so having you as a guest comes at just the perfect time to kind of talk about these challenges. So if you're watching live, please don't be shy. Throw in a comment, say where you're watching from, and I'll be monitoring that and we'll get to your questions and comments towards the end. So without further ado, can I just before we actually get started, can you just share a little bit about, how you got into this field? Because I think it takes a very special person to work with these families and serve them in the way you do?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's a huge question. First of all, so it all started when I was first born. No. It really, I think that I can't. This was just always a calling for me.
Mhm.
From the beginning, I come from kind of a traumatic experience in the past, and I myself I'm extremely hypersensitive.
Mm.
And so I thought that I was going to be a nurse. This is what from my neighborhood. This is what was considered extreme success where I come from, right? And so, but when I started college, I took one psychology class and I was like, oh my goodness, this is where I belong. Like, I love this stuff, right? And so I had no idea at that time that I'd end up doing what it is that I'm doing, but it was just always meant to be. My
Mhm.
first job at 18 years, though, sorry, was I 18? At 18 years old was in a home care facility for developmentally disabled adult male sex offenders and
Wow.
aggressive adult males. And even back then, I was very successful because my style just is natural to me. I have this way of being able to kind of calm, soothe the savage beast, though, but kind of calm a person down. And it's because of my own inner experience. I understand that if I come to them with a lot of upset, that they're going to draw from that. So that was always something that,
Mm.
that existed in me. And then it's just like one opportunity after another in each of the jobs. Then I worked with the severely emotionally disturbed children in one of the homes here in Sacramento. A lot of success there as a very young person. I would think I was about 20. A lot of success with very behaviorally challenged children. And then it was just like from there, people would notice, and then they say, hey, can you train staff and start to teach and do that kind of stuff? And it just kind of turned into all of this, to my surprise.
I mean, it's so great, and I could just the your passion is so palpable. Hearing your story unfold, like I didn't even know all of that, and I can tell that this is truly what brings like lights your fire. It fills you up, and
Yes.
when we have people like you doing this work, I can just tell like you are in it with them, and you will not stop until you get them those outcomes that they want. You know.
No, I think I was a born healer. I was put here to help
Oh,
other people heal. So even as a very small person, I would just want people to feel better if they were hurting in any way, whether
yeah.
that be physical or mentally.
So can I be, I know that we have some, questions that I'm going to ask you, but you mentioned the word hypersensitive. I think maybe if we can start there, because
Yes.
what does that mean
Yeah, I
exactly?
know. I'm always throwing that word out there. Okay, so hypersensitivity is simply, according to me,
Uh-huh.
right? Sensitivity to the stimuli out there. So anything having to do with the five senses, and we'll talk later about the sixth element that I'm going to throw in there as well. But if they're super sensitive to that type of stimuli, like they have serious, tactile issues with being touched or smells or and certain tastes or textures or those kind of things. That's what I mean by hypersensitive. They're just super sensitive.
Okay. Okay. So in my line of work, I often hear kids who have, sensory processing disorder, potentially. So all those inputs and not knowing what to do with that, feeling a little unsettled with everything
Yes.
coming at them. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
it's what they're constantly or consistently in sensory overload, right?
Ah.
And then oftentimes when I talk about the hypersensitive, they're usually highly reactive to that, whether that be their shutdown, fight or flight, right? The shutdown or the act out. Usually you're getting one or the other with your
Yeah.
hypersensitive individual.
Okay, great. So I'm going to lead in. That's a great lead into this first question. I mean, I've heard you say this, but I'd love to kind of like talk about this with you today. What
Yes.
is emotion soaking? Because I don't know if before I met you, heard that term before.
Right. Now it's because I didn't have anything to draw from, so I
Yeah.
made it up.
Yeah. No, I love it. Like,
So
explain. I mean, what better way to get the information from the source?
yeah. So emotion soaking is the unintentional sponging of the feeling energies of others around you. Okay.
Oh.
Now, what most people they say, well, isn't that just like your empath, right? But
Mhm.
with your empaths, I feel the empaths fall along the spectrum of emotion soakers. So they're high emotion soakers with a different, they react differently. Most of the time, they want to try to solve the problem, or they run away. Typically, with
Mhm.
your empath. But when you're looking at the other end of the spectrum of emotion soakers, you're looking at those who are truly acting out. They're having a really hard time. They're trying to get as far away from the stimulation as possible, right?
Right.
Whereas your empath, they're like, oh my goodness, they're drawn in and they try to fix it, right?
Mhm.
And for others who are on the other side of that, like a lot of your ADHDers or those on the autism spectrum or reactive attachment disorder, they're trying to get as far away from it as possible. So that's where you get that kind of difference. But then you say, yes, they emotion soak as well. Most people see them as not attaching to the experiences of others, right? They're with autism spectrum, there's been a lot of mistakes made where they say, well, they're just in their own little world and they don't feel what's going on with others. But I learned the opposite. They are truly drawing from the experiences of others and trying to escape that because it's just sensory overload all the time.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I love that. And I love the fact that you are drawing from your clinical experiences, which you have plenty of this, and also recognizing that, a lot of mental health, behavioral health occurs on the spectrum. And you're right. I mean, I when I first heard this, I thought, well, yeah, it's the empathic kids, right? But you've aptly pointed out that there is that ability for the other end of that spectrum, and we need to recognize that.
Yeah, very important because a lot of parents are shocked, but then when they hear it, they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is going to change everything." Because now
Yeah.
I understand that they're just overwhelmed by what's coming
Mm.
at them, as opposed to seeing it as just acting out all the time.
Yeah, I mean, what a revelation or a light bulb moment for parents when they finally understand that, because so much of parenting is can feel pretty personal, especially if you're trying to, you have a highly aggressive child or someone who is really sort of yelling and cursing, and it's embarrassing. It's,
Yes.
right?
Oh my goodness. And see, that's the biggest piece of it. That's where the Lafaya Way comes from. Is now we're trying to first of all understand the dynamic of the phenomenon of emotion soaking, how
Yeah.
that plays a part in the dynamics, and teaching the parents how not to personalize their children's behaviors. Because if
Oh,
they when you personalize your children's behaviors, what happens is you become frustrated, irritated, you feel disrespected, all these things that cause kind of a stir up in you, a
mhm.
lack of peace. And then your child draws that emotion soaking. They draw from that energy, and it expands in them times 100, 1,000 sometimes, right? And then they react to it. So you have to be so careful. And if you understand what's going on, it'll help you to, and I won't, and we'll get into I think some of the Lafaya Way too, but it helps you to be able to step one, find your calm, of the Lafaya Way when you understand emotion soaking.
Yeah, I mean, that interchange that you just described, I mean, I could see it when you were walking us through that, because I can imagine, I mean, I've seen plenty of kids in my practice who have these strong, strong emotions, and they're like 9, 10, 11. Not always, it's not always the preschool kids who are, having these meltdowns, and they just don't know what to do with those strong emotions, and it comes out as aggression, it comes out as cursing, it comes out as disrespect. And one of the toughest challenges, I think, that you said. So I mean, I'm so excited to understand what the Lafaya Way is, kind of unpack it as much as you can, just,
Yes.
to get parents understanding what that is, and hopefully be curious to learn more and work with you. So talk to us about this.
Okay, so and I love to give people something that they can just take and really use, right?
Yes.
And so within the Lafayette Way, there are 4 core steps, right? And
Mhm.
you want to, or what I call my core 4 steps. I always say it out of order. My core 4 steps, right? And when you learn these and you learn the whys and hows, this is what helps you manage your children's behaviors better. So step one is to find your calm.
Okay.
Some of the best ways to find your calm are first and foremost not to personalize their behaviors.
Hmm.
But personalizing another person's behavior is like the top reason, right, that we have strong emotional reactivity, because now we're feeling like you're attacking me now, and now it feels more like you're at war, and so I have to defend myself, and I'm going to defend myself with fury sometimes because, I'm the big person, I'm in charge,
Yes.
right? And so we want to move parents out of that and into where they truly want to be. Now, the step one is find your calm. Step two is understand the real truth. Okay. Understanding the real truth. What is going on with my child? And it's top ways to do that, right? Or to do check-ins. You do self-check-ins and other check-ins. So things like that 12 steps program, HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Could they potentially be hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? This keeps you from personalizing, right? And if you have a kid who needs a snack in the middle of the day, or they tend to skip lunch and get really angry, hangry later,
Hmm.
this is important to know and acknowledge. So then it moves you into problem solving focus, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then and step three is respond in alignment with your truest intentions. So here we are, right? Each step leads into the other. They all work together, right? And
Hmm.
so, but respond in alignment with your truest intentions. When you're seeking to respond in alignment with your truest intentions, first of all, you have to understand your real truth, which is, what are my core goals? What is the end game here, right? What would I like to get from the interactions with this child? Okay. And if we're
Hmm.
seeking things like our core goals for our household, some of the common ones are like peace, right? If we're seeking peace, then we're going to move out of doing things like yelling and being highly reactive, and we're going to move more into that problem solving mode that helps us to really be true to our own goals, right? And when we're true to our own selves and our own real goals, then you also find your calm more often within that, right? Because
Yeah.
now you're being true to yourself. When you work against yourself, then it becomes more of a guilt thing. Like, if you would just do this, then I wouldn't have these reactions, right? And so respond in alignment with your truest intentions. And I have so much more, guys. And then the last step, but I want to get through the steps without taking 5 hours. The last step is what I call the 3 R's, right? This is what helps. This is like your glue that sticks everything together, and it keeps it going and gives you long-term results. So the first R is to recognize small step improvements.
Okay.
You have to recognize small step improvements in both self and others in order to have hope. And we need hope in order to be able to move forward successfully with very struggling children. Okay. And so, but recognize the small step improvements, reinforce them highly, R2, reinforce them highly for self and others. So if you were a yeller before, I'm not looking for you to feel guilty about it at all. I'm looking for you to see it as an area that needs improvement. And when you improve, even if it's in the smallest little bit at a time, I want you to recognize that so that you can highly reinforce it and give yourself the pat on the back. The same way as you kind of beat up on yourself when you don't get it right? We have to kind of balance some of this stuff out. and for your child, you also want to recognize when they have the small step improvements, because the worst thing, or one of the most sabotaging things that we do, is when we start to get the small step improvements because they aren't big enough. They aren't where we think they should be, right? We don't acknowledge them, which causes the children and both ourselves to give up. They're like, well, it doesn't matter, when I try, right? So recognize, reinforce, and repeat. So repeat is just like my stirring, rinse and repeat. And I always laugh with parents and tell them the 4 steps are like all the ingredients to make a good cake, right? If you're missing any one of the ingredients, right, or you forget to stir, if you're missing any one of the ingredients, then you will get a nasty, ugly, flat, something type of cake that you don't want.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But yeah.
I'm like sitting here in awe because I love the simplicity of what you just said. I mean, it's digestible, but I'm sure putting it into practice, this is where the parents really struggle. I mean, it's like, it's taking maybe what were months, years of patterned behavior, and learning to change it is one of the hardest things we
Yes.
ask families to do.
Yes. It's very tough, but it's worth it. Because
Yes.
remember, it's already hard anyway. So let's do the hard thing in the direction of having, experiencing improvement, as opposed to continuing to do the hard thing and having it stay just as hard or worse. Right. So if
Yeah.
you think of it that way, it helps. It helps so much with your ability to say, okay, this is really tough, but hey, it's tough anyway. Might as well be tough and productive.
Tough and productive. I love that. I love that. I mean, I just feel like, hopefully as folks are watching this, I see you out there. Make sure if you're like resonating with this or you have questions, put it in the chat box now.
Yes.
But yeah, I love this because I can see this framework being applicable to so many situations. Do you find that it works for parents of kids of all ages or?
Yes,
Yeah.
it works for, and I know people hate when I say things like this, but it works for human beings. It gives us a way to interact with it actually helps you to interact better with your pets, right? It gives us a way to interact so in a way that we are not contributing to the disruption in dynamic, right? Once we start recognizing our part and what we can do to make shifts on our side, right? This is true empowerment. This is now reduction of frustration because it's no longer out of your control, right? This kind
Yeah.
of puts it so that it's like, okay, because we can't change another person's behavior per se, but we can change the dynamic. So their behaviors change because it's a new dynamic, right? So it's so important to think of it that way. But this works for parents and children. This works for couples, a lot of the parents that I see, and you get a lot of marital issues at times, when you have struggling children. So we don't know, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? But we all know, the dynamics of triangulation and all of that, right? But when you start, it starts to help the parents with their children. They're like, well, can I use this, with my spouse? Yes, you can, and it'll work very well. Right. And people even tell me I tried the Lafaya Way at work with a coworker and it worked great. And I'm like, see.
I mean, I am just like going back to what you did, what you said in the beginning about your background and history and how just you've used this and developed this, right? In your own clinical practice with your own families, your own practice.
With
I
my
mean,
own self.
yes. I mean, what better way to really, show some credibility with doing it and living it, right? So I'm just really excited. Now, how does this compare to other programs out there? I mean,
Yes. Okay. So I love the other programs out there. I really,
yeah.
really do. But I've always said, and I'm like that fill in the gap person, right? I've always
Mhm.
said, man, if they could use this, it stands alone. But if people introduce this as like a supplement to the DBTs, dialectical behavioral therapies, and love and logics and all those, if they use these tangible techniques along with that, it's more just kind of you're learning certain things to do, right?
Mhm.
You do learn ways of being, but you really don't get, it doesn't get deeper where it's like, okay, so if I learn how not to personalize, now I will be able to, and now will be able to get the results that I need from this child person that I'm dealing with, right? It's just it's strange to me because to me it's like natural, right? To me, it's like I'm super sensitive. I know what it feels like to be super sensitive. So I'm just going to teach other people how to work with a person who's like me,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so it's different because it's literally the Lafayette Way. It's based on and in my life as a hypersensitive person and how to bring myself. I learned how to bring myself out of that, or at least not out of that. I'm still sensitive, but I learned to make myself functional within that, and then I teach
Yes.
that to other people. That's just something that is hard for me to explain. It was tough for me to even want to turn it into anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I had so many parents saying, "Oh my goodness, you need to share this with other people. You need to write a book. You need to do something because you're literally changing. You're changing our lives now." And we've been struggling with this child usually for 5-10 years by the time they get to me because I was an intensive outpatient to start, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, could I, just with your permission, kind of go back to one of those steps and maybe have you give us a little bit more? I mean, I think, I wrote down, I was taking some really quick notes, but when you say respond in alignment with your truest intentions, like
Yes.
how do you help families understand what that is?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, I love to over explain. So, but responding in alignment with your truest intentions is, again, like I started out with core, understanding your core goals, and then responding according to those. Right. So, for example, it's there's there's this. I'll give you guys the quick power talk formula. There's this little formula that I learned it was in a little game, right? And it was called the power talk formula. One way to respond in alignment with your truest intentions is to make use of tools that will help you actually convey what you need to convey. So with the power talk formula, it's broken down in like this. When you undesirable behavior, right? Or always undesirable
Mhm.
behavior. It causes undesirable response. Now, the key here to this undesirable response piece is most people they kind of miss it a little bit. They talk about how it impacts them. So it really upsets me when you do this, right? As
Mhm.
opposed to it causes, so for a kid who's like completely feels self-absorbed, right? And
Mhm.
on their own agenda, that
Yep.
doesn't work. They can't connect to that. But it's when you yell at me, it causes my brain to kind of just scramble and I can't process what you're saying to me. And I know that's not your intention, is the next line. And I know that's not your intention, right? You're saving them from being the bad guy, right? You're a great kid. I know it's not your intention to get results that you don't want, right? So please, dot, 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 new more effective behavior or more productive behavior, right? So when you
Mm.
yell at me, it makes my brain scramble and I can't process what you're saying to me. And I know that's not your intention. You clearly want me to hear you because your volume's high, right? And so please, if you could just lower your volume and make it easier for me to take in what you're saying to me, for me to understand what you're saying to me, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So this is a response in alignment with your truest intentions. Because why? We're not looking to be upset with them. And, most of the time we're meeting reactivity with reactivity. And so when they yell, we either yell or don't yell at me, or these things that are producing none of the results we truly want, right? This is not placing us in alignment with our truest intentions.
Yeah.
Our intention, we didn't wake up in the morning thinking, yes, I'm going to be offended by what people say to me and then end up yelling later, right? None of us are really thinking that way,
Yeah, we
right?
don't want that.
Right?
Yeah.
But if we're really being, kind of proactive every day, we are thinking, oh my goodness, my goal is to maintain peace in my
Mhm.
home, on this day. We're living day to day on this day right here. And if we're being true and in alignment to that goal, then we will use the tools that it takes to get there. That's just one little tool, right?
Yeah, but it's beautiful, and in your example, thank you for that, because a lot of the families who watch the show are parents of kids of different ages. But what I love is, first of all, it's very clear, not just on what I'm feel like as the parent feeling inside, but it communicates it very clearly to the child and tells them what it is you need from them,
Yes.
but in order to get their needs met, so you recognize that how they're responding now is a call for help, but maybe they're not able to communicate that in the best way right now. And
Yes.
certainly you're recognizing it's causing this reactivity in myself, but want to stay true to that intention of peace. I want to be there for you, but this is how you can help me.
Yeah, this is you telling your kid, I'm on your side, right?
Yeah.
When you're giving the message, I'm on your side, what does that do? Right? It causes the other person, they're able to feel that. They're able to see that and respond. That's what we
Mhm.
need. We're looking to respond appropriately so that we can draw the proper responses from another person,
Mhm.
right? From
Yeah.
from our child. Because it can be so tough to do. Most parents, they are not, and I always say this, they're not missing it by like a mile. Most of the time, it's just little adjustments that need to be made. Understanding that your internal experience plays a big part, right? Understanding that emotion soaking changes things, right? That knowledge alone changes things for you, right? Because then at
Mhm.
least you're acknowledging if you get a poor reaction, right? You can at least acknowledge, okay, well, I was having a pretty tough day already before I came to them, right? Even though I only asked them to say clean their room and they had a meltdown, right? When I came to them asking them to clean their room, I was already feeling not that great on the inside. So it wasn't really about the unclean room. It was just I was already in a negative space, and they drew from that, right? So then we can say,
Mm.
well, next time I'll wait, or next time, sometimes we don't have time to wait. So next time I'll at least, before I say anything to them, or if they have a poor reaction, I'll ask the question, hey, you know what? I asked something, that didn't seem, all that bad, right? Are you drawing from? I was in such a bad mood though. Are you drawing from that, right? So then you're teaching the children too, what it is that's happening with them, so they don't make it about, right? Like, you're so mean, or I hate cleaning my room. We can stand in the real truth now, right? You just drew from what I had, and now you're reacting to that. So how do we help you to work your way through that emotion soaking piece?
Gosh, I mean, this is just, I mean, I'm sitting here like processing all this, but I'm sure that the families watching this are also sort of like, this is, making sense. It's all clicking. But I bet that there are so many ways that you can help families. So, with that, first of all, I was going to ask you. So, first of all, how can parents empower other parents?
Oh, okay.
And then we're going to talk about how to work with you because, like, I'm just like,
Okay, so they actually work together, okay? Because
okay,
my program is called Parents Empowering Parents. First
yes,
of all, so my PEP program out there, and parents can empower other parents by, first of all, learning the skills that they need to learn themselves,
okay.
right? And then sharing their experiences with other parents. sharing this new way of responding versus reacting,
Yes.
right? With other parents based in your real truth, and you're learning how to be more true to yourself. Again, when you're more true to yourself, you keep your peace, and you also keep peace in your household because you're conveying the right messages now. Your messaging is no longer you're disappointing, you're frustrating, you're upsetting. Your messaging becomes, I want peace. How do we create peace? Okay, let's move you into, you're such a fantastic kid. Let's move you into your fantastic space, right? When you're conveying different messages, and when you start teaching other parents from that angle, right? Because right now, parents, what do? They kind of complain to one another, and oh my goodness, yes, I get the same thing, and all of that, which is not empowerment. That's actually kind of taking us deeper into the frustration.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
problem focused. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
would
and if you're
say,
emotion soaking, it's like you just kind of get weighted down by that too.
yes.
Yeah.
And I would say that the best way for parents to empower parents is to become problem solving focused as opposed to problem focused. So if we want a quick, simple answer, becoming problem solving focused is the best way to empower one another.
Oh, okay. So there's a couple comments here. One is, yes, thank you for the new way to respond, especially with yelling. So thank you for that comment. Love this. Thank you, Tawana, for joining us. I know it's like mind blowing. I'm like, so okay, so for those of us who are watching and we're like, okay, I need to work more, I need to hear more, like how do we do, oh wait, hold on, there's something here, hold on. Sometimes I can be a yeller due to my stress level. I am working hard to stop that negative behavior. I don't want my child to mimic me when she's older. Thank you for this message. Any other last comments for Tawana?
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Oh,
No,
I
that's
know, isn't it?
awesome. And just remember that it's just one step at a time. And if I can just leave you guys with this, don't try, or don't do guilt. I'm going to say it that way, and then I'll say try not to do guilt, because guilt does not serve you in any positive way. All that guilt does is give the ego has to protect itself, right? So
Hmm.
ego protection kicks in when we do guilt, and we either have to blame ourselves, which is going to ruin our parental self-esteem and make us less likely to do the right thing, and or ruin the kid's self-esteem by blaming them, right? If you weren't such a terrible kid, I wouldn't have these responses. So what you want to do is move out of guilt and again into problem solving. I don't like the fact that I yell so much, so what I'm going to do next time is blah, and learn the tools that you need to learn in order to do that. And
But
I'll tell you,
are you saying to say that out loud to your child or just say that
mm-mm.
acknowledge, okay, so you're
This
saying
is
this
this
to
is that
you. Yes.
self-talk. Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
this is the self-talk. Don't do guilt. As soon as you feel yourself in mom guilt or dad guilt, say, hey, this is not helping me. I'm going to do something better on my next time and keep learning and growing. And even if you make the tiniest improvement, you used to yell the whole way through and then it was only for 5 minutes or so, and then you caught yourself, that's an improvement, right?
Yes.
Recognize those and
Yes.
reinforce.
Yes. Okay, so getting back to my original discussion here about like I know, I'm just like, okay. How do people learn more about the Lafaya Way? How do they work with you? Are you taking clients across like outside of your geographic area? Like how do people just get to be in your presence?
Okay, so now I'm actually working with parents nationally, hopefully internationally soon. But
Okay.
right now I'm working with parents nationally, and we work over Zoom for our PEP classes. Now the PEP program is a 12-week program. It's broken up into 4 modules, 4 week. I mean, no, sorry, 3 4-week modules. If you can count, you knew that I was 3 4-week modules. And what we do is we go in and you guys learn more. We dig deeper into the Lafayette Way. We dig deeper into those things that I wanted to try to explain, but there's not enough time right here. Into Find Your Calm and the whys and the hows of finding your calm, because you have to know why you're doing it, right? If you don't know why, it's so difficult to even try to figure out to want to do it in a tough moment, right?
Hmm.
But when you learn the whys and you get to the hows, then it empowers you so much. Understanding the real truth. So important to know what those truths are, to be able to do the check-ins. I have other check-ins that I teach to you, other acronyms that I teach to you, tools that will give you what you need in order to function and operate within the core four. Um, and just breaking it down for you so that you're really able to say, oh my goodness, I can actually use this. And we're doing it step by step, week by week, giving you little activities to do. We have our own private Facebook community that parents can go in and ask questions during the week or share successes during the week. And they get not only responses from me, but they get responses from other parents who have gone through or are going through the program. And we're very friendly in there. I have zero tolerance for any lack of friendliness.
Yes. Yes.
Safe environment, right? But just the pet program right now is it's doing a great job for parents. Like I said, getting lots of good feedback from all of the parents, and I would say that'd be a good first step.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go to LafayaWay.com to find out more about that. Through LafayaWay.com, you can get to the contact me if you have questions. Right. So there are people always have questions. This is a new type of program, and it's offering so much tangibility. People are like, I just don't understand how can we get there? But we do. In 12 weeks, we make huge
Wow.
differences in parents' lives.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine parents who are watching this and thinking, I want that in 12 weeks? I really do. Like, is it an ongoing enrollment then, or is there certain times that they have to join your
No,
program?
we have ongoing enrollment, and I try to meet, and because I know we're all busy,
Yeah.
like life is insane when you're a parent, right? And all the other responsibilities
Yes.
we have, but I set it up so that I try to meet on either Saturdays or Sundays or evenings, whatever works for the group of parents. If you bring your own group, we can work with the time that you have. In our groups, we have no more than 8 people because I want it to be an intimate experience where you can feel comfortable with asking questions, feel comfortable with sharing what's really going on with you,
Yeah.
without feeling like there'll be a violation of your privacy or inability to actually ask your question because there's so many people.
And is each session an hour, a couple hours? How long
Mm.
is that?
Okay, so we meet weekly, and each session is from an hour to about an hour and 15 minutes,
Hmm.
depending on how many questions there are. So
Okay.
sometimes I do go over, but I try not to go over more than 15 minutes because I know we're all busy.
Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah.
also record sessions so that if you have to miss a week, then we send that over to you so you don't miss any of the content. Right.
Yeah.
And then we have what I call my weekly sanity sessions, once a week. And then once a month, we have what I call the judgment free zone, where parents can kind of come in and really ask lots of questions because we're not just covering content. So, you get to come in and share your successes. You get to share, hey, I tried this and it didn't work. And we make adjustments there and, all that as well.
Wow. Wow. I love it. And you have a podcast? Both?
Um, I have not since last year. I had a podcast up through last year,
Uh-huh.
and then this year I took on a little bit more responsibility, so I had to drop a couple of other things. I've taken
Mhm.
on 3 new children, ages 4 and under,
I
and so I had to let go of a few things, just to keep my sanity.
Yes, yes. And this is important. This is coming straight from, someone who heals and helps lots of families. You got to recognize your own self-care and your
Self
limitations.
care, I talk about it and I live it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's so important because if you want to give your children, and we all want to give our kids like 150%, but if you're drawing from emptiness, like there's just no way you can do that.
And
So
no,
good
and
for you.
now in the curriculum we do talk about parental self care. So this is just give you a little glimpse into there's so many areas we have to touch on in order for you to truly be able to work these 4 steps.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm so excited. I think everybody watching or who's going to watch this on replay are so excited to just learn more about your program. Thank you for sharing all of those great tips and your framework. And I hope it gets more people over to your website because there's so many families that I know that could really benefit from learning the Lafayette Way. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and right now, you guys don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask questions. Like seriously, we also have you'll find it on lafayaWay.com though. We also have my book series as well, where we are truly working on. This is one of them here, camera, book 3. But it's really it helps parents so much. Even just the books alone. I definitely suggest the program, but the books alone will help you as well.
Okay, great. We have another comment here if you have time. Love all these ideas. Thank you. We have some sibling rivalry issues at times at our home. I was wondering if you have any advice for the first step in stopping the arguing or physical fighting in the moment so that we can get to that point of verbal talking points with them. I often can't get a word in easily because they won't stop yelling at each other.
Okay, so now depending on the ages, we want to give just age appropriate, and I always struggle with this piece, but age appropriate consequences and logical consequences. So
Hmm.
I have two that are close in the age. My youngest is 17, by the way, you guys. You know, and I'm taking on the 4 through 1, but but
Starting all over again.
my middle two, they were 2 years apart, so they would just bicker all of the time. Some of the best techniques to use, first of all, you want to learn how to do, you have to dig in and learn how to step on it. You have to learn how to find your calm, because your reactivity to their arguing is contributing to the dynamic first and foremost. Okay. So and I know it's tough to do, but trust me, we can talk about all day long, find your calm techniques. There's so many. Oh my goodness. But anyway, if you work on finding your calm, then you can get to those logical consequences. So for children who argue too much, depending on the age, it may be that they're not getting enough rest, right? So for my two children who love to bicker, my go-to was, okay, so you guys are fantastic kids. So I can only make a guess as to why it is you're having this kind of reaction right now. And most of the time, my guess was something they didn't like. My guess was, you must not be rested well enough, because clearly you're not able to self-regulate, right? You're not rested well enough. So, and I'll stop and I'll be like, ooh, okay, hold on. Okay. So are you guys, you're having a hard time. So are you hungry? Are you maybe lonely in there? It's like bored for kids, were you extra bored, right? Do you need
Hmm.
something to do? Or,
Hmm.
and like I said, in those really tough moments where it's too much arguing, I'm like, you must not be rested well enough, because I know I have a beautiful, wonderful kid, and that's not coming out of you right now. So I'm guessing that being tired is preventing you. So, if you're going to continue to argue, there's a double good in this. We're going to continue to argue. If your bedtime is 9 o'clock, it will be 8:30 tonight. So if that's what you're looking for that 8:30 bedtime, because I'm going to feel like you need more rest. And then the double good in it is, you get a rest from them too. So,
Yeah.
so we want to look for win-wins here, right? And so
Yes.
you're either going to get a no, please don't move the bedtime, right? And remember, this is not in a mean way.
Uh-huh.
My kids are wonderful and beautiful. So there's something going on that's keeping you from your beauty. So let me help you get there. Is the
Yeah.
idea, the idea behind it, right? Because you're looking to draw, and there are other ways to do it. But remember, your bottom line is you're looking to draw the best them out of them. If they're behaving in a way that is against, who they truly are, like we know we have wonderful kids, we raise them, they come from us, right?
Yes, of course.
But but if you know that, then your goal is to draw that from them. Hey, babe, you do such a good job, with this, getting along with this over here. What helps you to do that? Because I need you to do the same thing, with your brother or sister over here. What can you do, right?
Yeah.
You want to practice, right? So it depends on the age. So teenagers, you talk to in a whole different way, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so, unfortunately, I don't know for the person who put that comment, if you have a chance and you're still watching, you can put in, like, their ages just so that we can make sure we answered your question. But, I mean, you are a gem, Lafaya. I just I mean, I'm just like, I could just talk to you all day, and, we should talk more. So, you know,
No,
this
and
is
I have to
great.
say the same for you, because it's so exciting to actually have a behavioral pediatrician. I didn't even know that existed, and so it was like, as soon as you started talking about what you do and Let's Talk Kids Health and all that, I was like, oh my goodness, your program is fantastic.
Oh, thank
So
you.
same,
I
same.
know. It's like we were meant to meet. Oh, here's the comment. 8 and 6. That was
Oh, okay.
helpful.
So 8 and 6,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So I gave the proper age advice.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so great. Again, that quick answer to that question really highlighted just how you're able to take that framework and apply it, generalize it to different circumstances. I mean, again, all the things that you just kind of modeled there drew on strengths. You acknowledge the emotion soaking. You acknowledge that, these kids are not necessarily, this is not their best selves. I know this to be
Yes.
true. And then moving everybody to that problem solving. However, as a parent, we do need to implement logical consequences. So again, you sort of give them that choice like, hey, what's up here? This is kind of my deduction, and you can do this without yelling.
Yes. And what do you okay, so I'm going to figure out how to assist you. And so whatever you can handle, you just let me know. Whatever you cannot handle, I will handle for you because we're still going to get that best kid, right? If you're
Yeah.
constantly thinking of it that way, it will reduce your frustration. It really will because you'll be right in problem solving mode. So then it won't feel like, "Oh, why are they doing this?" It'll feel more like, "Oh, poor things, they need a little assistance, right? Getting to their getting to their wonderful selves, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to do what it takes to get them there." And you start doing when you start doing that, oh my goodness, it makes a huge difference.
Well, so Tawana has to say, love your energy.
Aw. Thank you. Look, no.
I know. I mean, it's like this is how I would felt like the first time I met you. I was like, I just need to keep talking to her because like she is, just you just want to surround yourself with like people like you. So thank you so much for this great conversation today. And I really do hope other people as they're watching this or on replay, sharing it, getting to you, finding their way to you, because gosh, I mean, so many people need you right now. And I just love the fact that it's an accessible program. You're not limited to geographic area. You are doing this at accessible times and convenient times for families. So thank you for the work that you're getting out there into this world.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just as a reminder to all of you who are still watching, as you know, next week's guest is Dr. Diana Mercado, who's going to be talking to us about emotions as a compass. Now, I just feel like what a nice way to segment from this talk this week to next week. For those of you who don't know, she's been on my show before last year. She is an ADHD coach. She also is a physician living with ADHD herself. And so it is going to be a jam-packed episode as well. So hope you're tuned in next week at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then just as a reminder, if this has been like eye-opening and has been like, oh my gosh, another great guest would be, or if you could talk about this topic, just message me. So you know how to get a hold of me. I'm on email, so that there's my email there, Dr. Nerissa at letstalkkidshealth.org. And I'm on a bunch of social media platforms. So just reach out. Send me a private message, whatever. I'm going to be here to help make this happen because, again, my mission is just to help us talk about these things and normalize it. Right. And then lastly, my last housekeeping is that, next week, Monday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, as you know, if you're participating in my book club, and if you're not, but you're like Dr. Lisa Damore, yes, please. She is going to be coming and talking to us about her book, Under Pressure. As you know, Dr. Lisa Damore is a psychologist and a New York Times bestselling author and podcast host of Ask Lisa. So it will be a great episode. Please tune in here at 3:30 p.m. Next week. So I am so grateful to you, Lafaya. Thank you for just sharing your gifts, your enthusiasm, your passion for helping parents. It really came out today, and really, I am so blessed to just know you and have you in my professional life. And I hope that we can continue to collaborate
Yes.
selfishly. Like this is just amazing. So, so thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we'll tune in next week. We'll see you soon.